perhaps it will encourage and enable other professionals to get involved, and really keen to share and pick up any conversations about that peer research toolkit with any of you after our presentation today and into the future. So that's the toolkit. Next slide, please. So a key feature of the SSSP project has been creating space for ideas and committing to action. So as I've said, that's been at all different levels of the project. So there's one reflection here from one of our peer researchers about the importance of them being part of our board meetings and our steering governance for the project, and how that's actually really helped kind of set the priorities, set the workflow, but also just been a lovely and important involvement piece of work. And here, just straight off the bat, a lovely quote from one of the young women that was involved in the Timber project, talking about how they felt in terms of their involvement and that they were taken seriously, and that made a difference to their feelings of safety. So the project, next slide please, Duncan. So the project falls within two big questions. So the two questions that we wanted to be addressing with all of our activities and working towards the outcomes that we wanted to create. And the first of these was, how do we make the whole community safer with young people at its heart? So going on. I'm going to hand back to Becca so she can talk to you a little bit about Let's Talk next.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Emily. Hopefully everybody can hear me. Most of you on the call have probably heard about Let's Talk, but we just want to give you a quick whip through of where we are with the project, which has been supported through this programme. So next slide, please, Duncan. Let's Talk is about exactly what it says on the screen there. We want to empower parents and carers. We think that keeping our young people safe, keeping our community safe needs a whole community response. So while as agencies we can do our bit, we want young people and schools to do their bit, we also want parents to do their bit. So what we do within Let's Talk is try and raise awareness of those risks that are in the community. And challenges that young people face, which is culturally very different to as it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and certainly 30, 40 years ago when I was a young person. So what we do is try and provide simple tips and techniques to parents and carers to support their young people to have a whole community resolution to the risks that our young people face around safety. Next slide, please, Duncan. So there are a number of values that we have as a community safety partnership driving this piece of work, and that have also been mirrored through this board. We believe that parents are part of the solution. We don't think that parents should be judged but supported. We also believe that parents want their child to thrive. They don't always have the information or the capacity or resilience to help get the best outcomes from their children and support that. So this is around how we can try and do that. We also want to get intervention in as early as possible. So we've developed initiatives aimed at parents and carers of primary as well as teenagers, where most of the risk starts coming to materialise. But we also encourage parents and carers to promote appropriate risk. Young people learn through risk. So it's not about eradicating risk. It's around working out where support is needed. It's also very much, some of this stuff is that we talk about is very scary for parents and carers. We're not there to scare them. We're about giving them appropriate information, but again, using tips and techniques to give them a role which empowers them to be able to do something about it rather than fill them with fear. The other thing that's very true around our Let's Talk programme is it's all underpinned through core values of communication, and also your role as a parent to love your child and to have the capacity to do that rather than all the other things that communities expect us to do now. Next slide, please, Duncan. This is the numbers where we are so far. We did this graphic on last Thursday, so the numbers have gone up a little bit, but we are at over 8,500 engagements. You'll see that our latest piece of work that's literally just hot off the press that's happened over the last 2 weeks is our focus on dads. That's because only about 14 to 18% of sessions, people that join our sessions previously, have been males. So this is focusing on dads. We've got those recordings there. The dads that turned up gave us really, really positive feedback, and our next step will be to making sure that we get access for wider people to those recordings and that we continue that piece of work. So those are the focus sessions that we've done so far, and there's also some more numbers to go on there from the online harm risk session we had on Thursday night, and for the recordings for those. So next slide please, Duncan. So feedback has been really positive. Like you see overall at the bottom there, 14% attendees male. We have really high recommend to other parents rates. We have done some research and work with an external academic provider to help us with our theory of change and make sure that our measurement criteria is there. And we are now looking at longitudinal feedback 3 months after people do the sessions, and we're getting positive feedback then that people are actually utilising the tips and techniques, but more learning to be done. Next slide, please. And this is a very early look at what we are very excited about, which is our new website, which is going to host all of our information in one place. You'll see the logo has been redesigned to look like a speech bubble, and also each one of the little bits that come off that logo represent the different thematics that we cover in the programme. So next slide please, Duncan. This just gives you an idea of the flavour of what that's going to look like, and we're hoping to have that live by April. The build is just going on so that you'll have access to the toolkits, people that you can go on to, organisations that you can go on to for more information, but also the tips and techniques will be on our website. Is there one more slide, Duncan? No, there isn't. That's it from me on Let's Talk. I could bore you to death with this for a couple of hours. If any of you want any more information on Let's Talk, please do come to me separately. But that was just to give you a flavour of the work that's been done. So thank you.
Thanks, Becca. And next, under this project, whole safety for the whole of the community with young people at its heart, we're going to spotlight the couple of peer research projects that we've been leading at Young Devon. The first of these is led by one of our peer researchers called Hannah, who's not able to be with us today. But this has been a bit of work at Coombs Head Academy with lots of involvement with police officers and with Becca featuring regularly herself. So a focus group of Year 9 students. And a picture of them together here, and on the next slide it talks to you just a little bit about the process that those young people have gone through, and a nice picture there of the kind of celebration event that was held last week, where there's lots of lovely feedback that we've got sort of flooding in at the moment from the police officers that were able to attend, as well as the young people themselves. The young people went through a really kind of full and thorough process of narrowing down from that big question that we had started this section of the presentation on, and focusing down on the things that they really felt would make a difference to their safety. So through workshops, they narrowed that down to the importance of their relationship with the police, and understanding that coming from sort of both perspectives, sort of differencing and kind of thinking about like stereotypes, but also kind of just understanding each other, which was really important that they had some sessions together sort of to build that relationship, and then work on a film project together, which is going to be a film that's going to be used in training of sort of new police officers to really help them understand young people's perspectives. So I want to allow time just to really kind of have a look at that film together. So on the next slide, hopefully the film is embedded in there, and we can have a little watch of this, which is a film that's created by a group of young people at Coombs Head Academy with some support from the police.
I am going to have to switch it to YouTube. This is why I was a little bit delayed, because it wouldn't play from here. So I'll quickly switch over. I've got it backed up.
Thank you.
Can everybody see that?
It's coming, I think.
It looks like it's coming.
Everyone?
Yeah, black screen.
Some young people are struggling to feel safe around and comfortable relying on police. We feel subject to negative stereotypes that are breaking down our relationship.
We would like to share our experiences, feelings and hopes so we can rebuild a bridge between young people and police.
Hello?
Hello. We have reports of a disturbance and a young person loitering near your location.
Alright, I'll check it out. What are you doing over here?
Nothing, I'm just here. I'll go home in a bit anyways. Nothing.
Oh, I'm thinking you're meant to be over here.
Why? I don't mean that disrespect, but
You have to leave now.
Why?
Just leave.
I don't have to.
Here, we can see how negative stereotypes can escalate a situation. Both police and young people feel misunderstood and challenged by the other, but don't explain why they are doing what they are doing, leading to negative outcomes.
Hey, mate. Hey, mate. Where you know you from? Yeah, mate, where you from? All alone, you know the dangers out there.
Wait, excuse me,
Yeah?
you alright?
Yeah, I'm alright.
No,
Hey, stand up.
Are you alright?
I'm alright, mate. I'm alright, mate.
Stop! I will arrest you if you keep acting like this. I want you to stop. You're harming a young child.
Stand up.
Right.
Stand up.
Sir! You're harming a young child.
I'm not harming
You're
him.
doing nothing.
Get off me.
Okay,
Stop.
I will arrest you in a second if you carry on this. Be affected by
Are you okay?
How?
No.
Where do you live?
Downtown.
Get off me,
Do you
mate.
have anyone that can come get you?
No.
Nothing. Get off
Well,
me.
we'll have someone escort you.
Ah, get off me.
Thank you.
Get off me.
Sir, calm down.
You pig, get off me.
Get down.
Get off me.
Okay, well, I need you to lay on your back.
This young person was removed from a harmful situation because police were present in the community. They were able to intervene because this area was reported as a common place to see drunk people.
What do you think of police? We feel stared at, made to feel we are trouble and worried in your presence. What do you think of young people?
Overall, we don't see a problem with young people, but we need to make sure we deal with concerns appropriately. How could we come across less abrupt or intimidating?
We would prefer a friendlier approach. We feel uncomfortable being stared at and would like proactive solutions to our problems, where we can work together to make the community feel safer. And I can see how we can mix up being safeguarded with being in trouble though, but you do have high pressure jobs to do and sometimes we may be taking it too personally.
In our workshops, young people felt that police were stereotyping them as troublemakers, making them feel intimidated and therefore not safeguarded by police. We are largely open to working with the police to make our community safer, but this will depend on how we are approached.
We would like to feel that you are wanting to safeguard us too, from the small number of antisocial youth. If we do need to move or answer any questions, people address us in a friendly way and give us ways to manage and improve our presence in the community. We would love to break down the stereotypes that exist between police and young people, but it will take a joint effort to do so.
How do you explain the difference between community and response officers?
There's lots of different types of police officers that operate in our towns. The big difference between neighbourhood officers and response officers is response officers have a specific task that they're given over their radios and they go and respond to that, and it's specifically that task. Whereas community officers or neighbourhood officers will get to know people in the town, they'll get to know the young people, and their responsibility is for that area and all the things that go on in it. So they're involved in longer term problem solving and different types of issues in the town.
Thank you, Duncan. So this link, we can share this with you afterwards as well in the kind of follow-up emails. And as I said, we're in the process at the moment of collecting. The big bit of the project as well was to think about how we could collect the feedback and the kind of impacts of that film on the people that watched it. And so that's something that we're putting together at the moment, and we're really looking forward to sharing that with our final reporting as well. So I hope you enjoyed that and found that interesting to have a watch of. I'm going to hand over now to Maddie and Emily, who are going to talk to you a little bit about their peer research project.
Hi there, thank you. Sorry we were a bit late, had some technical difficulties there. So I'm Emily.
And I'm Maddie.
And we are working on physical changes that we can make in the community to make it safer for young people. So we first started by putting loads of places that we knew was unsafe within Newton Abbot, and getting young people to rank that from most safe to least safe. The feedback was brilliant, and the main thing that did pop up for us was Bakers Park. The feedback we got from that was they said they felt uncomfortable there, they felt it was haunted due to the high number of suicides. So we thought we would look into that area. So we walked through, didn't we? And we looked at the subway there, which is the main one that kind of gave off quite bad sort of feelings. There's lots of negative things written on the wall. So like KYS stands for kill yourself. So that kind of like alarm bells to us, kind of this needs to be changed if that is the walk through to Bakers Park.
However, also when talking to the young people, they did say a lot about what they appreciated in the artwork in that specific area. So we made sure when we went down, we had a little walk through. We looked into the unkind, unwelcoming things that can make young people feel unsafe, but also turned our attention to some of the nice things, some of the things that young people find quite enjoyable, what they find quite nice about society. So like in the PowerPoint, we've got an unwelcoming column with some very rude words and some unwelcoming phrases, whereas there's also some very beautiful artwork which young people did say that they very much enjoyed. And when we talked about doing work in this specific area, we had a few young people saying to us, don't change it too much. We really like how some people have done their own work and have really told a story through this graffiti, which was great.
So then we decided to get in contact with graffiti artists to do some young people inspired work. We have got in contact with 2 who have both responded saying that they are really like happy to work with us, and they would do a whole workshop talking about the history of graffiti, so the young people can really get to know that sort of style. We have just done a recent workshop last week with the young people, and they have decided which graffiti artists they would like to work with, and creating inspired work. They're very happy to get on board with this. They seem quite excited about it, that they can put their view across and create something together. We're kind of looking into them sort of doing the graffiti work as well, aren't we? Creating graffiti workshops. So we're really hoping that the funding can continue so we can do this. We do have Contact the Graffiti Artists at the minute. We have just responded to him saying that the young people really like his way of work, as they feel they can get like a really strong message across. So that's brilliant.
They also really appreciated having a choice between the 2 different graffiti artists, as they had very different styles. So it really got the young people talking about what they really want to see from it, what they like the most. And they just seem really happy with the idea of being able to pick and choose what sort of art is going on and who they get to work with. I think they really enjoyed.
And the main aim was to change the feeling through walking through that subway for young people. They've said they felt really uncomfortable in there. We were looking at the lighting in there, and that's completely gone. It's dim. It just creates an awful feeling. So we wanted to turn it into more of like an attraction and something that they can look at and say that they created or contributed with, and something they can be proud of.
And until then, until we're able to look into doing more artwork into that subway, we've spoken to the young people, and they are also just really excited in the idea of doing a workshop with the artist, whether that goes on in a public area or whether the artwork that they do is put in their safe space in their youth club. And either way, they were really they were very excited to work with other people, very excited to do something about their local area and something that feels like them, and and be able to express how they feel through a different form.
They also spoke about having a symbol that they could create for Newton Abbot, which was really positive, really quite exciting. But we have since been doing this work, revisiting that subway by Asda pretty much every week now, and it's getting more and more negative. There are more negative things being written on. So yeah, it's something we feel we really need to change. But that's, I think that's it from us. So thank you.
Hi, so we began our section of the work with 2 focus groups, one based in Newton Abbot and one based in Teignmouth. This covered 54 young people in both areas with a range of ages. We did a range of surveys and group work with these young people, collecting their thoughts and opinions about how to make their area feel safer to them. I have an example on the next slide. So this is one of the outcomes that we had from the Newton Abbot group. This is one of the things that they ended with, discussing what areas felt safe and unsafe to them. This specifically, you can see most of the areas are where there are drunk people or older people approaching them, they're making them feel uncomfortable, and the parks that they don't like attending. So this was a really good reflection of where young people didn't feel safe, and we also did lots of work on them with them about how to where they do feel safe. For example, one of the things that came up with the Station Youth Centre, they felt really safe there. And the next slide, you can see our Teignmouth group consultation. Again, lots of dark and drunk people in the areas, making them feel uncomfortable. So again, they highlighted all the areas that they didn't enjoy going to and that they didn't feel safe. And then the next slide. We were able to use this map to do a give to the police so they could alter their patrol routes in the area, and then consider the CCTV locations. Out of this group that we had in Teignmouth, we began a focus group in the school to create a youth club in town, which could be a safe place for them to go to. If you go to the next slide. We were also able to do a survey across Teignmouth School. So this has come from 170 young people that were at school. This school is of about 900 young people, so the statistics are based on that percentage as well. So you can see here that like young people really wanted a safe place for them to go, and a place that felt like it was created just for them. The middle one, the percentage of young people who would attend a youth cafe, this would be about 68 of 170. So if you can imagine that 40% of 900 young people in school who may have done that, that's quite a large portion of young people coming through that centre area. And again, a percentage of young people who are feeling that they don't have a place to go when school is not open, and especially during the school holidays. And the next slide, there's just a little bit more information about the type of areas they do feel safe, like McDonald's, because they wanted somewhere with lights, trusted adults, warm food. So yeah, and a quote from a young person saying everyone just wants to be able to hang out with their mates, relax a bit more without being watched and told off. That's something that the youth, the focus group was saying, that they felt that when they were in town, that's, you know, hanging with their friends, that's what the reaction was for them, that they didn't feel safe or wanted in those areas. And the next slide. So off the back of that work that we did over the first few years, we utilised this focus group. It started with 8 young men, and we grew across ages and genders to 18 young people who were giving their thoughts. We found a location in town, the Courtney Centre, which the young people chose between a few options that we had at the time. They created what type of things they wanted to be able to access in these areas, what games and activities, how often they wanted it to be open, what days might be best suited for them. They started designing the areas that like their dream youth club would look like to make it feel welcoming and safe for them. And then we were also able to do a site visit after the centre was chosen to see how the designs and activities they've been coming up with could reflect their ideas in the actual site. And then we went away and did a bit more work around how those designs can fit into the site visit as well. The next slide. We've also been working with the young people around why these places are important and how we can connect these safe places to the community and bring community awareness to these places. They've come up with ideas about how they might promote the centre to the community, like coffee mornings or like Christmas drinks were some of the ones that they had. We've also done a lot of work with young people to like curriculum-based work about how they can keep themselves safe in this community, and on the back of some of the themes that they raised while we've been doing this work, we've encouraged them how to keep safe with like drugs and alcohol, social media and relationships, as those are some of the themes that we've been speaking about. I believe the next slide has a few quotes from the young people about what they want from the space. And we were also able to do a celebration event with young people to thank them for all the hard work that they've done. This has been a really fantastic group of young people. They are like passionate and engaged. They're a group of really hard to reach young people. So their thoughts and opinions have been really valuable, as they're the young people who have been moved on the most when they've been in town, but they've been really eager to share their thoughts and opinions and how to create this safe space for them, for young people, by young people. They're also really value a trusted adult to speak to that is outside of school and home, to get information, advice from youth worker. They've really valued that type of contribution, and they're really passionate about promoting and connecting to their community, which has been amazing to see. I believe that's everything. Yeah.
Thank you, Maddie. And then moving on to the second big question within the whole project. So within looking at the whole community safety and thinking about young people at the heart, a particular focus of this project has been on how together, how can we think about how we can reduce harm and violence based on gender. So the first parts of this this work on this question is the Is This Okay project. I'll hand over to Lucy so she can tell you a little bit more about her work with that.
Brilliant, thanks Emily. Yes, so if I could go on to the next slide. Yeah, so the Is This Okay Harmful Sexual Behaviour programme is a 6-week programme that has been delivered to schools across Teignbridge. We've worked with 121 young people in total, both male and female. The groups are delivered within schools to young people that have either displayed, I'm sorry, I'm just going to shut the door. I've got a lot of loud background noise. Apologies. So the groups are delivered to young people who have either been highlighted by the school to have displayed or experienced harmful sexual behaviours. A maximum of 10 young people in each group. We work really hard to ensure that those young people are safeguarded and can safely access the programme. So we work closely with the schools to build in safety factors, ensuring that there's no crossover between young people, as often we will deliver 2 groups in one day at the same school. So we need to make sure that there's no crossover of those young people as they're leaving. Some on the right hand side of the screen are some of the things that we cover within the sessions. So 6 weeks we'll cover healthy and unhealthy relationships, pornography and safe social media, violence and abuse in relationships, consent and the balance of power, and how and where to access support. We also complete pre and post surveys, and there's a lot of lived experience and data gathering that's built into the programme. Thank you very much, Duncan. This is of the 121 young people that we've worked with. These are some of the findings that we've had from those pre and post surveys. So on the top row here, we're looking for the kind of things that young people are experiencing both in school and within their community. So as you can see, really high numbers of the young people that have been exposed to inappropriate images online, catcalling, unwanted sexual comments, unwanted physical touch, flashing, and controlling behavior in a relationship. So typically, the outcomes that we've been seeing from young men are that they are more exposed to those like flashing and inappropriate images online, whereas typically the young women that we're working with, catcalling, inappropriate images, and unwanted sexual comments, they're the top ones that they're experiencing. So that there's a real, we can see the difference between the groups. And I'll go into that a bit more in the next few slides, but on the bottom row are the things that the young people would like to learn more about as well. That's fine, Duncan, you can go to the next one. Lovely. So this is one of our activities that we complete within the group. It's called the Runway of Disrespect. It's a really great lived experience gathering opportunity. And it's essentially the young people, we encourage them to think about all of the things that are making them feel uncomfortable, unsafe, frightened within their community, and they just get to write it out. And some of the things that they've included are quite harrowing that these young people are going through. So for instance, if you leave me, I'll kill myself and blame you, is the experience of one young person. If I'm scared or being followed by a weird man, I try to act crazy and put him off me. Another young person said, you're supposed to scratch them so you get their DNA under your nails. I really try and remember that. So, you know, really safety planning in their heads all the time and constantly feeling, especially in their school uniforms, is something that's really been brought up in a lot of the groups, is that catcalling most often occurs when the young women that we're working with are in their school uniforms. This particular piece of work was completed with a group of Year 8 students who had raised concerns. If you could go to the next slide, Duncan, they feed in. Thank you. A group of Year 8 girls who had felt that they were worried about being photographed by men in the toilets within Courtney Park in Newton Abbot. This is something that we brought to the attention of Team Bridge, so at one of our board meetings, and this was very quickly addressed. And although there had been no reports of any of this kind of behaviour reported to the police, this was something that the young people felt worried about. So those physical changes were made to the toilets, and that was fed back to the young people. They felt really, really empowered by the fact that their voices had been heard and that their worries had been addressed. So that was a great piece of work to see. The next slide, please. So this is a little bit of feedback from the young people and the schools. I think most of the young people that we're working with, they really enjoy the opportunity to speak with a trained, safe adult who will just, we answer the questions that they want to ask, and they are given the opportunity to speak freely, which doesn't often happen for them. So it's a lot of what has come out is that they feel that they would like the programs to remain single gendered. So 98% of young people said that they feel it would be a hindrance to them feeling that they could engage in the program if there were mixed genders within a group. And similarly, we asked if they should be made bigger, and young people have expressed that they would feel more exposed to judgment if that were to be the case. Each group also co-designs a set of ground rules, which they all sign in the first session, which allows us to really create that safe environment for young people to share what they've been going through. Next slide, please. So yeah, the next steps for the programme, harping on about it, but 6 weeks is a really, really short amount of time to try and get young people to talk about these really, really in-depth conversations. So we've got to go in there and we've got to make an impact quickly. And it's been fantastic to see how open and willing to talk these young people have been. So in the future, we're hoping to be able to develop a version of the programme for students in years 7 and 8, because currently we work with young people from 13 to 18, so that's years 9 and upwards. So we'd love to be able to create a programme which you know, that even earlier intervention, as obviously we know that those behaviours are starting earlier on as well. We would love to be able to include some, develop some new activities, looking at building a richer intelligent picture to show like where are they experiencing these behaviours. So catcalling, for example, and stalking, where are they happening? And then we'd also like to look at facilitating a post-programme workshop. So 6 months down the line, what have they learned, and are they still using it? You know, that would be a great way to build on our evidence base. I think that's me. Thank you very much. Sorry, that was very...
Thank you, Lucy. So the next part of the work that I want to talk to you about is our targeted one-to-one youth work that one of our workers, Charlotte, has been leading. And this is where young people are referred to us for one-to-one work, where there's any kind of concerns or risks or areas to explore around relationships and safety. So just to give you a bit of a flavour for this, I just want to talk you through a all details changed case study on a young person. So tell you a little bit about Jake. He's 14 and is referred to the one-to-one programme by his school due to ongoing difficulties. I'm just reading the case study that's been prepared by our worker. The teachers reportedly often spoke over female classmates, dismissed their opinions and showed frustrations when challenged. And additionally, he had difficulties managing his emotions in his relationship, becoming angry and defensive during disagreements. And despite these concerns, this young person, Jake, really wanted to work with our youth worker and said that he really wanted to improve his listening skills particularly and how to manage his anger. So Charlotte did a couple of sessions. She did 6 sessions with him in total, starting on building rapport, talking about emotional regulation and anger, doing some sessions on active listening, respecting different perspectives, and then spent some time kind of reflecting and thinking about what might be coming next after this bit of work. Charlotte also uses young person-led goals with the one-to-one work that she does. So she sets goals with the young person for what they want to achieve out of their one-to-one work. And sort of following 6 sessions, Jake shared that he'd really felt like he was gained some great new skills in terms of listening and how he could have those arguments, but perhaps in a constructive way with his girlfriend. And also kind of actually acknowledged that sometimes he was showing anger, but sometimes underneath that was kind of worry and fear, sharing that. And that he was really keen to just kind of continue practicing some of the strategies and new skills that he'd worked on with Charlotte. So Charlotte feels like the sessions really provided Jake with some practical tools to improve his relationships by creating that non-judgmental space for reflection and introducing some structured emotional techniques. And that Jake said that he'd gained some self-awareness and control over responses, and this approach had helped him develop more respect and empathy in his communication. So that's one of the cases that Charlotte has worked with recently, just to give a bit of a flavour of the one-to-one youth work that we've been delivering. On the next slide is just a bit about sort of some of the kind of approach with that. So currently working with, so we've got a caseload of 5 young people in teen school, but there's a full sort of waiting list of young people that want to be doing the one-to-one work. So referrals around kind of relationships and risk and safety. And the real aim is kind of understanding the behaviours and impact that they might be having on others, and to also just think about themselves as young men and how they want to kind of grow up in their relationships and their community. So on the next slide is a little bit of feedback that's been gathered from some of the young people that we've worked with over the last couple of years on this one-to-one work. So feeling like it helps, that it's nice to have someone to talk to, and that actually that's made a real difference, that kind of youth work approach, as we've talked about throughout the presentation, of that being someone different to school or family, and some feedback here from the school itself as well. So I'm going to move us on to the last part of this this sort of theme, which is some youth voice and co-design work that we've been leading. And this responds directly to the question of how do we change the culture of misogyny? So how do we think about this as the big kind of complex kind of topic that it is? And so next slide, please. So we spoke to over 180 young people to gain their insights about how they think we could make a difference to this. And they gave us lots of kind of useful bits of information around sort of young men understanding it but not sure how to address it, how all young people are impacted, there's confusion and sometimes not quite sure what to do or how to start, but young people really wanting to feel trusted and empowered. And just linking back to what Lucy talked about earlier, something that young people told us is they just really want this to be earlier, and for younger young people to start these conversations around masculinity, around gender, around becoming a man much earlier in time. That's happening at the moment. And one thing that came up first and throughout, and we've talked about this a lot as a project board and as a team across the partnership, is that young women are often given the role of having to keep themselves safe rather than that responsibility being held elsewhere within the kind of system. And so some of the quotes here that kind of back up those insights are in the blue. And on the next slide, we took these and put them into some goals for designing a new service. So what should we do then? So if that's the question, how do we change this culture? What should we do to respond to that? And young people gave us some really useful insights about what they thought, what they thought was happening, and then what they thought needed to happen to kind of address that. So focusing on boys, creating reflection spaces to talk about things together as a group rather than being felt like it was taught or lesson or schooly, and it being really relational and about safety being built and trust over time. So on the next slide is a little bit of a kind of outline, a sort of almost like a blueprint really for a new service that's very discussion based, called Voices to be Heard. So there's an age group here that young people told us. This is all kind of insights and that came from the young people that we spoke to. They wanted it to be gentle, informative. They wanted it to be discussion groups rather than sort of like activities or feeling too kind of formalized. And also they wanted something to be built in that would be flexible in terms of who leads these spaces. So perhaps it might start off with a youth worker or a teacher even, but then it would go on to be peer led, and that young people could create and kind of facilitate these sessions for themselves moving forwards. So our next step for this, our hope, this is some of the values in the flower that kind of underpin that approach, but the next steps is we're hoping we'd like to pilot this set of discussion groups in a few different sites, and then kind of continue that process of co-design, which would next be learning with young people through that, and then making some changes and designing it again. So that's what we're hoping for next. Next slide, please, Duncan. So generally what's next? So we'll come to the end of talking about the two big questions that fall within the kind of Safer Spaces, Safer Places project. And what we're working on right now is capturing our impact. And as we're doing today with you all, sharing the learning, sharing the conversations, sharing the insights that we've heard from young people, but also the kind of learning that we've worked on together as a partnership across the different organisations. We're focusing on gathering our outputs and our response to the kind of outcomes underneath these big questions. Do young people feel safe in Tonbridge? In their communities, in their relationships? Where do they feel safe and unsafe? You sure they saw those maps that Maddie shared with you earlier, and the kind of insights the peer researchers shared as well. Oh, hi Hannah, thank you for joining us. I've just seen you pop up in my screen, that's brilliant. And then the other kind of big question is around, as well as that, how able do young people feel to have agency over their own safety? Do they feel they have the capacity to affect their safety of their community and in their relationships? And as I mentioned at the beginning, we'll be sharing the toolkit with you as another way of kind of sharing the insights and learnings that we've pulled together. So that's what we're working on at the moment. And as Becca mentioned right at the top, we'll be sharing that final report with you all. And we're also still continuing on the kind of conversations with young people and creating space for that voice. So just a little kind of picture to leave you with. So this is a vision for the whole bit of work together, sort of underpinned by our fundamental kind of values, thinking about physical spaces, thinking about relational interventions and building this social movement. So there's been lots of elements of presentations. All of us have delivered lots of presentations throughout this bit of work, conversations, training, and that's all been about kind of creating conversation and movement around this change that we want to create. All working towards the vision that I spoke about right at the beginning in terms of young people feeling safe in their community with their peers, and underpinned and at the heart of, as one of our big questions, having space for young people to influence us, to set the agenda and to share their wonderful insights with us. So I'm aware we've only got about 5 or 6 minutes left, but the next slide, I think, is an opportunity to answer questions. I'm just going to hand over to Duncan and Mark so that they can perhaps field anything that's come through in the chat, or just to kind of help us through any questions in the time we've got left, if there is any.
Well, certainly, Emily, there is no questions in the chat just at the minute, but if anyone wants to put their virtual hands up and ask any questions, then please do, or type something in the chat, then we can maybe get some answers. Or everything was so brilliantly presented that there are no questions whatsoever at all. I don't know. That's
I'm not seeing any hands, so it looks like everybody is. Oh, there we go, Liz.
Yes, Liz.
I was waiting because it's a bit of a side question around the toolkit, and obviously without seeing it. Is that toolkit specifically around young people in the experience engagement, or is it extendable to all sorts of working with adults as well, do you think?
That's a lovely question. I thought you were going to ask there, Liz, about is it specific to theme? So I'll answer that kind of question for my own self. So it's definitely kind of a peer research in terms of it could be used towards any theme or kind of topic or question. It's kind of neutral in that sense. It's talking about peer research as an approach. It's talking about peer research in terms of kind of like learning and insights that we're sharing. There's some case studies in there that are about kind of violence and gender-based violence, because that's the work that we've done. In terms of adults, yeah, I think everything in there is relatable to sort of community or sort of more sort of wider sort of participatory approaches or community researchers. So I think absolutely it would be handy and helpful and give you some useful information for that. I'd be very happy, as I said as well, to and also just thinking about our time, to pick up any questions or have a conversation about it when you've had a look at it, Liz. If you want to shoot me an email, happy to put some time in and have a chat about how it could even more be tailored to adults.
Thank you.
Yes.
Good. Emily, we have a question in the chat there from Becca. I would be interested in understanding the vision in more detail. Did this form the basis of a theory of change for this?
Yes, it did form a theory of change. The vision particularly came out of the co-design process with young people. So for the question of how do we change the culture of misogyny, we flowed that through a full co-design process. So sort of that kind of double diamond that sort of comes from that sort of design thinking approach. And so the vision was an output from that work. So taking on board all of the things that young people had told us and the discoveries that we've made from speaking to also lots of different professionals and kind of leaders within this area. That's what came through to the vision. And it was also kind of worked on with some of the young people that had been involved in the interviews as part of that work too. So it's not linked to a kind of theory of change because it doesn't follow that kind of flow. It has our aims and kind of outcomes within it, and it talks about where we're trying to get to and the way that we want to get there. So in that sense, it has a kind of correlation with a theory of change. But in terms of the overarching aims and outcomes of the project, that was worked together as a partnership right at the beginning. And it's sort of informed the kind of measuring and the sort of what we've kind of reported and gathered throughout the project.
If I can pick up on that, we had 2 weeks to write the brief for this project, and what we used was research that had already been undertaken by the two organisations. So the actual design of the project initially was influenced strongly by police data, but also with young people's views at that point. That helps.
Cool, thank you, Becca. Yeah, and there's a question here from Bill, wondering where you go next. Is it another area or to deliver the one-to-one sessions in other areas? Could there be some further delivery in King Stainton for older young people? Presumably if you worked with Teen School, but is there a need for further work outside of school for King Stainton young people?
Might be helpful for me to answer that one. First of all, we at the moment haven't got full confirmation of this project going forward. So there is further funding under the UK Prosperity Fund. We've had significant support from Tunbridge Council, who have proposed in their spending plan for next year to Devon County Council and the Combined Authority that this would be an element of that. We're not likely to get a decision on that until May, sorry. So we would be, once we have that, then we will be shaping up exactly how the project would look. And we will be really looking at data and things to look at are locations for that. You've heard an awful lot throughout the presentations around intelligence gathering and increasing our knowledge of our area and our young people, and that will be identifying exactly where we go for the future work.
And if I was just going to add to that, Becca, in that absolutely, I think if money was no object, we would love to roll this out in all aspects and all areas based on where that need is. As with all of these projects, we're constrained by, I guess, the funding that we get, and therefore trying to direct it to those areas for which we're getting the greatest level of intelligence and needs led, not just by young people, but obviously by police and also with schools and talking to teachers. But yeah, absolutely, I think taking on board that obviously if there's a data and information coming out of King Stainton, then that'd be a case of looking at that. But like I said, if we could mirror this and part of what we've taken and the learning and being able to evidence impact and difference and how the young people feel valued and change, to be able to take this across the rest of Devon would be is an ambition. We just got to see who's willing to help facilitate that sort of thing.
Yeah, and from Space's point of view, I'll echo exactly what Duncan was saying there, and that is, isn't it, something that we know that could be really effective. And actually, if we've got these young people who have a need within their areas, then certainly it's something that I know we all want to do. So brilliant, depending on resources and capacity. There's a couple just comments. Liz, I'll come to you in a minute as well. So thanks, great way of presenting your learning and love all the insights. Brilliant, great work, love that. Comments. Miranda had also said she had to leave, but thanks. I'll be keen to see how we embed some of this into daily work and look forward to working on what next. Lee is going. Can I ask Liz then to come in with your question?
Yeah, really mindful of time, so we might need to take you out of the room. But I guess I'm really interested in what steps have been taken in terms of bringing it out to Devon, and what can we do to help out. So I work for Devon County Council. One of the things that I'm keen on is particularly the kind of healthy relationship work in schools. There's pockets of good practice across Devon. It's really scattergun. It's really inconsistent. And I guess my think is around how do we use the healthy school partnership as a hub for those conversations, so that we can not standardize necessarily, but have a better portfolio of activity so that all of Devon benefits from it. Again, not to answer now, but just putting it there.
I've got a bit of an answer, Liz. I've got a bit of an answer. In the we strongly supported a bid into the serious violence funding for Devon for the next financial year, and this scheme will be rolled out wider. That's the Is It OK scheme, the harmful sexual behaviour scheme. But the other thing that we want to do, if we are successful with another 9 months of funding, is develop some variations on that, as have been talked about, to try and look at developing something younger. We know we've got a big evidence base and we're happy with that, but we want to improve and we want to do more. So any opportunities, and that's one of the reasons for having this session, is any opportunities that we can have to share our learning with others, we would love to do so.
Thanks.
I think that sort of partly and stuff answers Bill's question around, how could we encourage that data collection in King Stainton, or do you have enough already? And I think that's an ongoing process, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and we would be wanting to look across all of our communities within Teignbridge to make sure and that we're gathering that information. Okay, would you like me to just wind up then?
I think so, yeah, I think that's just everything.
We're a couple of minutes over. So here's the massive thank yous. We're at the end of a 2 and a bit year project. I want to thank everybody for attending, but I also want to do a massive thank you to the 2 organisations, Young Devon and Space, who have been working with us on this project, and all the individuals that are in that. The level of information and knowledge that we've gleaned over these 2 years has been really, really significant. We know our young people a lot more. We understand the issues in our community a lot more. There's more for us to do. Obviously, there is. The importance of co-design and also how eager young people have been to be involved in that co-design is something that we will continue to work on and will continue to share. So thank you, a massive thank you to all of everybody that's been working on the project, and also a massive thank you to our speakers today, and for those of you that have attended. Hopefully we will bring you more in the future, so watch this space, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Well done, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Oh, there we go. Just us left. Well done, everyone.
Are we going?
Well done.
Well done.
Great job. Great job. And in that session, my boss, who's responsible for local plan, messaged me and said, I need that image of Newton Abbot to inform our master planning for Newton Abbot going forward.
Oh,
get on.
So I've shared
Yeah,
that
I
with
saw
her.
I saw your email as well. So I just, because it was Poppy who created the map, so I've just sent Poppy a message to see where she's got it, because I think she has a more in-depth report as well. So
Yeah,
I sent
that's
that
what
over to her.
I couldn't find it in my files. I know I've got a printout copy, but yeah, so then we can send that in and it will be considered for the master planning, which is basically how Newton Abbot's going to look over the next 10 years.
Incredible.
10 years, 20 years, because they're looking at redesigning the whole of it. So that'll influence that too. So cracking job, everybody.
So yeah, apologies that I didn't get in straight away because I was busy fretting that I couldn't get the video to play on the thing. And then I was like, what if I delete it and try and do another one? And then that just wouldn't work. And I was like, oh, crap. Then I was like, right, don't save it. Then I've reopened the other one that Emily had saved. And I was like, faffing around. And then I was like, where is Emily in that? And then I looked on the list and they weren't on the original, they weren't on the invitees for this one. So I then had to forward the invite to them. I think they were just on the, because you noticed that I'd sent that one where I cancelled my original holding email. And I cancelled that one because I'd noticed people were jumping on that, and I didn't know who it was that was jumping on that. But I looked at that original list and that was just us core. So I was like, so the background. So thankfully I just forwarded it onto Emily and thought that'll be where, that might be why they're not there, because they don't have the link. So
thank you. That's so glad you did that. That'd have been
thank
you all. Well done.
Just wanted to quickly just say, and particularly for you three with our kind of Newton Abbot hats on, I don't know if any of you are linked into Spotted Newton Abbot on Facebook, but there was a post last night from a parent about grooming Snapchats going on with a 20-year-old lad and a 13-year-old, which they posted basically saying, look, if you're parents, you need to be aware of these sort of things going on. So I just don't know if you're not in that Spotted Newton Abbot, I don't know if I can link it to you because it's on my personal
sure
one.
in the comments Let's Talk mentioned. I'm so sure that Let's Talk, somebody had said Let's Talk in the comments.
Yeah.
So that's
that's good.
So I mean, a lot of people are saying that you need to report this to the police. So it should, because it just needs to come through as data, doesn't it? Even if they know that there's not really a lot going to be done. But yeah, there's that. There was also the young lad that went missing for a few that was on, and he was.
We know him from the club, and we've actually lived
I figured
with,
he was
Natalie
probably on your
well.
radar. He goes missing quite a lot and involved with older men.
Yeah, we've linked with Natalie as well to try and get some more information, because we've actually seen him quite regularly during his missing episodes without knowing that he was missing. So we've linked with parents and Natalie to connect more on that. So we are on that one. Yeah.
Cool. That's right. They just happened to pop up over the weekend. We thought, I'll just make sure that we're kind of aware of it, and there we go. Right.
Brilliant. Thank you, everybody. I'm just going to send through the finance printouts because I had to get finance to do it for me because they're closing everything down for end of year. So I'll send those. So we just need to see if there's anything. I've had the one for £1,800 has just come through to me that I've just sent for payment.
Right.
She'd already sent the quarterly one, and we'd already done the filmmaking one. So we should be all up to date with you.
And you've got everything you need to send out the email to all the delegates as well, Becca. You've got the PowerPoint and the toolkit.
Yes, I had completely forgotten I had said that I would do that. So I will do that. The presentation is massive.
It's a PDF now. So one of the latest emails that Emily sent to us is a PDF version of the presentation. So it should be much smaller.
Right, okay.
Stop sharing.
Let me just have a quick look.
Oh, that's
so it is Oh, maybe it's in my inbox. Maybe I. Is there any chance you can send that again?
Yeah, of course, I'll do it now.
If you
That's
can
fine.
send that again, and I'm doing an email to thank people coming.
Yeah.
I will probably have to do it in a couple of days because I want to send them a link to the recording, don't I? So
yeah,
I will put it in my diary to do in a couple of days when Claire's back and I can get the recording onto YouTube. Then I can send them the link to the recording, and then I will obviously be sending them the presentation and the toolkit.
Yeah,
and you are still recording, so obviously you want to...
Yeah, no, I'll have to clip it. And
Okay,
I didn't start recording because you all promised me you would remind me.
I know.
My boss. Hang on, let me just turn it off before I moan at you all.
Definitely.